We have new episodes dropping every other week. You can find them early on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, or wherever you find your podcasts, or find the link below for our Megaphone landing page, and we will see you around the campfire. Hey, it's Paul.
Hey, it's Jess.
Welcome to Campfire Ashes. Now pull up a log. Let me tell you a story. Let's go on vacation, she said. It'll be a great time. Pete adjusted his hold on the branches above him. Will you shut up? It'll hear you. Sarah hissed back in a hushed tone. And if you listened better, we wouldn't even be here. They both struggled to keep their head above water, tangled the mangroves in the resort path. It started out as a regular vacation. First, Pete screwed up where they were going. Sarah wanted to go swim with the pigs in the ocean, so he booked a trip to Puerto Rico instead of the Bahamas. Then he booked the wrong flight, ended up on the wrong side of the island, having to take a series of smaller and smaller buses, hours to make it to the resort they were supposed to be at. And yet, those mistakes pale in comparison to the amazing time that they were having only a few hours ago when they tried to sneak away from the tour and have a quickie on a secluded part of the beach to try to spice up their relationship. They were in the middle of rekindling when they realized abruptly that no one was making a noise around them. Sarah noticed first as she postured up and looked around. The flock of birds in the mangroves were flying inward like a swarm of locusts. The frogs croaking near the waterline were silent. She was painfully aware that they were the only things on the beach. The excitement quickly turned to panic. Pete opened his eyes and realized she had stopped moving on top. What? Did you get sand in your area? She put her hands over his mouth. His eyes darted around as he craned his head as best he could, trying to kind of like expecting to see tour guide groups or something, and that's not it. There was nothing there. A faint sound of whimpering and screaming started coming from the direction of the path. It broke through the tree line, snapping some of the saplings going around the edges of the mangrove. It stood, hunched on muscular, leathery legs. Its clawed hands each had a screeching rabbit kicking against its fingers for dear life. It lifted one to its mouth and bit it, and Sarah winced at the sound it made as she slinked into the sand, but never took her eyes off the monster. It went limp in his hands when the last bit of blood had left its body and squealed subside, and the other rabbit managed to break free and bolted away, making a dash for the water's edge at another patch of mangroves. The monster snarled its displeasure. It hunched over and bristled its back, revealing a row of thick spines, almost like razorback boars. With only a few bounds on all four legs, it quickly tackled the rabbit, rolling around in its claws again. Before it could sate its appetite and ended squealing again, it realized it wasn't alone on the beach. Sarah had already gathered her bathing suit while Pete pulled up his pants, and they were both army crawling slowly into the water. It dropped down on all fours and bristled its back again. Pete and Sarah made a mad dash to another plot of mangroves and dove into the surf, and the monster gave chase, charging toward them where they were, but it stopped just short of the water's edge. It couldn't track where they had gone once they were in the water. They managed to crawl into the mangroves and waded, keeping their bodies submerged as best they could while watching the confused monster pace back and forth on the beach. And by the time the sun started to break the horizon, their fingers were pruned and their legs were aching from treading water, and the monster had long gotten bored of waiting for the pair to come out of the water. But after a few hours of angry whimpering to themselves, they decided they wouldn't leave the safety of the mangrove till it was daylight. They slowly pulled themselves onto the beach, exhausted and tired from the adrenaline dump, and they were only resting about 5 minutes when they heard rustling again from the beach path. They rolled over to their stomachs and started to inch back into the water. A bright umbrella broke the tree line as the first vacationers started towards the water to get their spot at the beach. Exhausted and relieved, Sarah rolled over on her back and looked up and huffed. Next time I'm booking the vacation.
They're lucky to be alive.
They are lucky to be alive.
Why it happened.
So, that is the chupacabra.
Oh my, get Razorback boar.
Kind of, yeah. So, here's the thing. There's a lot of, different, what we think of the chupacabra and what, the original stories of the chupacabra were. Number one, this thing has only been around since 96 or 95.
Wow, it's like my age.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's I've talked to some people and they're just like, oh yeah, the chupacabra's always been a thing. I'm like, how old are you? I was born in 2000. Yeah, okay, yeah, for you, it's always been a thing. But I remember like I was in high school when the legend of the chupacabra kind of started to come around, and I was
Oh
like,
my goodness.
it's like, yeah, that's not a thing.
What? Blew my
Yes.
mind.
So this is kind of based on an unknown legend of things that happened in the 70s started, but it wasn't actually named until 95. So basically, they very loosely linked two things that happened in South Texas and Mexico with this, which really, I mean, there's really not a lot of reason to be able to link these together. But yeah, that was basically in the mid 70s. There was sightings of condors that were linked to a rash of mutilated cattle, and the blood was quote unquote removed to the last drop. And then in Brownsville, Texas, ranchers found a bull dead with no blood around it, no tracks.
God.
Yeah. So the reason I chose the story being in Puerto Rico is because that's where the legend kind of takes root, where like the modern legend of the chupacabra comes from.
I always thought it was Mexico.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's the thing. It's like a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, it's Mexico and Texas. It's like it's not. It's Puerto Rico is actually where it came from. In 1994, they had four little grays were found under a bed and then chased away. It's basically they kind of chased away like four unknown animals. And then later on the next year, sheep were found dead. In August, as many as 150 different animals were blamed on the chupacabra.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then later in 95, dozens of turkeys, rabbits, goats, cats, dogs, horses, cows. It's just a lot of stuff. So, here's the interesting thing. The what the chupacabra is that you think of is probably what has been reported in the States, and that's usually like a small dog-like
Yes.
thing.
Immediately, yes.
Yeah. So the original chupacabra is not. Have you seen the movie Species?
No, but I have seen the movie where Scooby-Doo fights a chupacabra. I don't remember what became of that at all. I just know it existed and I watched it.
What?
There's an episode. Okay, so there's an episode of Scooby-Doo. I think it's like Scooby-Doo and the Monsters in Mexico. And it came out in the early 2000s, and Scooby-Doo, I think, teams up with the chupacabra because it's like being hunted to extinction. I don't know. It exists. I'll find it. I hope it's not a fever dream. I feel like maybe I made it up now.
That
I'm looking it up. Continue.
I have no words.
Continue about species or whatever.
Okay, congratulations. You have officially derailed our channel for the first time. Like, we've gone on some tangents, but like...
It's related.
Yeah, but I'm still confused.
Hold on, I'm looking it up. Here we go. Scooby-Doo and the Monster of Mexico. 2003 film, okay?
Okay.
And, wow, this is a terrible synopsis. It just says, while visiting a friend in Mexico, Scooby and the gang investigate a monster that is terrorizing the town. And I think the monster that is terrorizing the town is a chupacabra. Oh my gosh, it was released on September 30th, 2003. That's so weird because it's September 30th. By the time anyone else hears this. That's weird.
That is very weird. That's very odd.
That got meta. Hold on.
That got very meta. All right. I'm going to send you a picture on Discord right now of what the chupacabra actually looks like, or what it's kind of supposed to look like, based on the early 90s version of it.
Okay. So, plot. So, Fred's pen pal lives in Veracruz, Mexico, and he invites Fred and the gang to visit him and his family. And while they're there, there's talk of El Chupacabra. And then I won't spoil the rest of the movie for you, but that's the plot. So it exists, and it has to do with Day of the Dead, and it's neat, and I knew it was real, and I didn't make it up, but one person doubting me immediately means that I made it up.
Yeah, the chupacabra definitely did not originate in Mexico. It's weird that it did. It's weird that you, like, when we talk about chupacabra, everybody kind of assumes Mexico, and it's not. This is a Puerto Rican thing.
Okay, what in the fuck did you send me?
I sent you what a chupacabra is actually kind of looking like. So the movie
Supposed to
from
be a sexy chupacabra?
well, no, this is the woman. This is the woman from Species, but like
Oh, he
this
looks like a fembot, but like inside out.
kind of, but it's more the like rubbery skin, the leathery kind of skin, and the spikes on the back.
The second one is freaky. Ugh.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the chupacabra actually looked like. And then for some reason in the 90s when like we started reporting on it, like it became a dog-like thing.
I prefer the dog-like thing.
Well, yeah, obviously it reported that. So Species, the alien in Species was actually based on the original chupacabra legend. So when you look at this is what they had in mind, or what they assumed was actually going around and killing all the things in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, okay, because see, that is terrifying. I would be afraid of that, but like what I think of as the chupacabra is very much the equivalent of the Taco Bell dog. So it's like Mothman. It's like Mothman, you know? Like the original like renderings and iterations of Mothman is like just this fluffy ball of black fuzz with red eyes, and you kind of want to hug it. And like what I think of as the chupacabra is like this little chihuahua dog that you kind of want to hug, and this is not that. And
No,
now I might not go to bed. I might not go to bed tonight.
This is like one of the original drawings of the chupacabra. So as I'm doing all this kind of stuff, so yeah, the story actually originated in Puerto Rico. I don't know, I didn't really find a lot of information as to why suddenly this is a very Mexican or southern Texas kind of thing.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you can see how this original drawing of what the chupacabra is looks like the Species monster.
But also, hi, I see you.
Oh, yeah, hi.
See, that one's slightly more cuddly. Still incredibly menacing.
I don't see how that is cuddly at all.
Well, compared to the other one?
Well, yeah, compared to the Species monster, which is an alien.
Yeah. No, I don't think that one.
But yeah, so basically,
like Creature of Black Lagoon.
kind of, yeah,
Like less skills.
kind of, yeah. But like the razorback and the circular mouth and everything, basically, it's a bloodsucker. The whole thing is like it's a thing. So I guess what happened is they started, since Puerto Rico is where it formed, where this legend formed from. Mexico, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, and the U.S. all of a sudden were just like, oh yeah, these unexplained deaths that we have about all of these animals obviously have to be also chupacabra.
Oh, for sure, because why wouldn't they be?
Yes. So because it was
You never
happening.
knew existed.
Yeah, exactly. So because it was happening so often in Texas and Mexico, that's where I guess our reasoning on what the chupacabra actually is, or what we thought it was, is kind of thing.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
Because like I remember in the 90s like seeing like dash cam footage from cars and stuff, and it was just like, oh my god, we have a sighting of the chupacabra, and it's just a mangy like coyote. It's just a coyote with mange, or a dog with mange. It's not really this like ridiculously creepy thing.
You just gave me an idea for other future stories, because that made me think of like the random, like, in the early days of YouTube,
Okay.
they would have like the random jump scare videos.
Way back in the aughts.
Yes, the mid aughts, I guess, like 2006. I was like 10 years old.
Oh God, don't do that. Can we not?
But when they would do like the jump scare videos, or like you would just find like the weird, like, quote unquote found footage videos on YouTube, that gave me an idea. So thanks for that. But also, I don't like that either. What you just said. I don't like it either.
So yeah, so the name of it was I think it's like San Juan, Puerto Rico in '95 is when like they were really starting to talk about it, and I think a comedian is the one that actually like made the name. Yes. Like it wasn't even like it wasn't even real, and the comedian was just like, "Oh yeah, that."
That's the thing.
Yeah. But it's I think it's linked to El Vampiro de Moca, which is basically like the bloodsucker of animals kind of thing.
Okay.
It's changed from here to there, but again, I think the biggest divergence of it was when it became a mainland issue, is because that's where it really kind of took on this dog-like persona, as opposed to the weird, leathery, much more alien, much more creepy, much more reptilian kind of thought process, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I can see that.
I don't know why. So, like when we talk about like the Jersey Devil, or we talk about Bigfoot, we talk about a lot of these other things. Like there's usually not that much of a shift in what it was to what it is. Like if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like I guess maybe making it like dog-like and less sort of humanoid kind of made it less scary. Like that's why they did that. But
maybe because maybe it's just less menacing as a
dog-like creature.
as a little mangy dog.
Yeah, see, but then again, like if you look at Mothman, which, you know, obviously I'm going to get into that eventually. The statues that they have, like memorializing him in West Virginia, aren't anything like the original, like first sketches of what he used to look like. Like they made it more humanoid and scary. So then I don't know. Like I don't know why they would then decide to make this one less humanoid and scary. Just like, even though I know Chupacabra is supposed to be like this blood-sucking creature that completely drains you of your blood and like rips you apart, I'm not that scared of them. But
because in your mind, it's the Chihuahua. It's the little.
Well, that and also like, have I ever heard of a Chupacabra sighting in, you know, the northeast of the country?
Yeah, it's always been the Southwest. So
Yeah.
It was named by a Puerto Rican comedian named Silverino Perez. And basically what happened is like when these reports are starting to come in '95, he made like an off the cuff remark on a radio show, and basically he basically just took two words together. He put chupar, which is basically to suck in Spanish, and cabras, which is goat. So it was basically chupacabra is goat sucker. And because I mean, at the time, that's what was going missing, like the goats and the sheep and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
like,
so
considering he doesn't specify, supposedly.
Yeah, so and then like I said, the livestock killings that were happening in Mexico and other places, that's where you get the El Vampiro de Moca, which is from the place called Moca but that was also Puerto Rico too. So like I don't understand where a lot of this comes from. I'm still trying to figure out where the shift and where it really became a thing in like our area, because it's Puerto Rico. So like Puerto Rico is a very isolated island. You really can't like swim to it from like any
Right.
other island. So like it's very weird that this very tiny legend would morph so much and then become much more of a mainland thing. Because like when I first said chupacabra, you were talking about Mexico and Texas, basically.
Yeah, and I also didn't realize that chupacabra was as recent as the 90s. That's why it didn't even immediately cross my mind
Mm-hmm.
when you were just telling the story and describing the creature that it would be a chupacabra.
Yeah. So again, the most common description, this is right from the Wikipedia, is a reptile-like creature said to have leathery or scaly greenish gray skin and sharp spines or quills running down its back. It's said to be approximately 3 to 4 feet high and stands and hops in a fashion similar to a kangaroo.
Oh, that's terrifying.
And then the version that we know of is another common description of the chupacabra is a strange breed of wild dog. Mostly
That's a
hairless
lame-
and a pronounced spinal ridge, pronounced eye sockets, fangs, claws. Unlike conventional predators, the chupacabra is said to drain the animal's blood and sometimes organs, usually through 3 holes in the shape of a downward pointing triangle, and sometimes only through 1 or 2 holes.
Well, dang.
Yeah. So it's basically like a bloodsucker. It would just like a vampire dog with a very weird like suction cup like mouth.
That's a disturbing image.
It,
No.
it kind of is. So
It's like a leech.
so do you know what like a lamprey is?
Yeah, and I don't
Okay,
like that.
No, they're creepy as shit. So basically think of like a dog with a lamprey mouth.
You think of it. I don't want to.
Well, I know you're going to bed really quick, so I need to make sure that you have it truly ingrained in your brain that think of the Taco Bell dog with a lamprey mouth, and instead of it saying like "Yo quiero Taco Bell," it was like "Yo quiero chupacabras." I don't know why.
Okay,
I
but
did that.
am I actually going to bed now?
I don't think you're going
know.
to bed now because every time you're gonna turn on the TV and you're gonna see a Taco Bell commercial, and
okay.
this is going to just like bring everything back, and I apologize in advance for the next week of you not getting enough sleep because of this.
Well, here, listen to segue into reasons why I don't get sleep.
I mean, at least now you have a reason.
Okay, look, I love living in the woods. I love where I live during the day.
Uh-huh.
At night, it is scary, and I don't always. Okay, I like never like to be outside after dark, but so things that are keeping me up at night. So I don't know if everyone's familiar, but this past weekend, SpaceX launched a rocket that was carrying like satellites or something. I don't know, into the sky, and
Yeah,
it was
Starlink stuff.
yeah, and it was visible from where I was at, like where I was living, am living.
I didn't know it was because I would have looked for it. I wasn't even
Well,
paying
I
attention.
didn't know either. So what had happened was my brother and my sister-in-law took my niece and my nephew to this like Halloween light show, and wherever that was, it was on, like they take you on a little train, and while they're on that little train doing the light show, they could see it, and it was just like this flaming ball like shooting through the sky, and they thought it was like an asteroid or like a meteor or something, and they're like, oh, that's really cool, like I'm gonna take a picture of that. Well, then you go on Facebook, and that's like everyone in my area is talking about it and posting pictures, and they're like, what is this, what is going on? And then eventually like news articles came out that like, oh, SpaceX launched this, and they're like, oh, that's what I saw, like that makes sense. Me, I'm skeptical and paranoid, so it's a lie. That is not what happened. It's aliens, and here's why it's aliens, because later so this is like, I don't know, 8-9 p.m. So the very next morning, I guess, around like 5 a.m., I'm sleeping in my bed. Window is cracked so that we get some air in. We have a screen, you know. And Tom wakes me up, and he's like, did you hear that? I'm like, hear what? He's like, what is that noise? Like, do you hear that? And so there's this really strange sound playing, but like happening. I was about to play it for you. That's why I said playing. There's this really strange sound happening. And I'm going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I still have no idea, like, what it could be rationally or irrationally. But in the moment, I'm like, if we keep acknowledging this thing, it's like we're targeting ourselves.
Well, yeah, that's how you die.
Exactly. So I turn to Tom and I'm like, it's a dog crying to be let inside. And he's like, I don't think that's a dog. I'm like, Tom, it's a dog. Go to bed.
It's like, this is what we're going to believe it to be.
Yes. Because I don't want to die until it gets light out. And then when it gets light out, maybe we could check it out. Now, the only thing that I can kind of think of is earlier that day, like before the thing launched, I was outside doing some yard work with Tom. We're doing stuff around the house. And we heard hawks. So I'm like, oh, maybe rationally, like a hawk injured something. And that was like its death cry, you know? I don't know. But I'm still unsure of that. But I think maybe to help me sleep at night, I want to believe that.
Mm.
So anyway, here, I'm going to play it. It's 30 seconds, but it's like sporadic. So we just need to be real quiet. It's like the way that it echoes almost makes it sound like whispery, but it didn't sound like that in real time. Like I didn't notice like the whispery effect until just now, like re-listening to it, because I haven't played it back.
You've been like, well, I don't need to hear this.
Yeah. Okay, it's sending. So that way you can rip
Play
the
it,
audio
yeah.
and play it so that everyone else can hear it. I was gonna post it in the Discord, but I was like, no. I gotta tell Paul about it when we record. Give it, if you play like the first, like as soon as you start it, you'll hear it. You could hear it's the same thing 3 times. So if you just play it like real quick, you'll hear it.
All right, here we go.
Right?
Yeah, that's a no for me, dog. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I am
Do
not
you
a fan.
Do you hear what I mean? Where it's like almost whispery.
Yeah.
But in real time, when I was recording that, it wasn't. I didn't hear the whisperiness.
And that was like right outside your window.
I don't know if it was right outside our window, but like
In your yard, basically.
yeah, I mean close enough, you know, and like we have a decent plot, you know, we have like almost an acre of land, so like.
Okay, so you're gonna be moving then, right?
Everyone's like, oh my god, your house is haunted.
No, I don't think your house is haunted, but that. Well, I don't know if your house is haunted, but I mean.
I know, right?
That. Oh, I don't like that sound at all. That's a
the
very
whispering,
weird sound.
they're like, oh, it's haunted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that could be a banshee. Like, I don't know, like,
I don't know.
I don't know what.
I don't understand. I don't
But
know
anyway,
what that is.
so I have sage. I'm gonna sage the house, and we'll see if that changes anything.
Probably a good idea.
I'm gonna sage it before everybody comes over. Let's see.
Yeah.
I already turned any welcome mat that I have. I turned the welcome facing the house and away from the guests, because it's if you leave it facing people like coming to enter your house, it acts as like an automatic invitation.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you knew that, so.
Did not know that. We'll make sure that I go and change the things like right now.
Yeah. But yeah, so heard that, and have not been sleeping well since, not gonna lie. I haven't heard it since.
Yeah, that sounds creepy as shit. I am not a fan.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, so. Yeah.
Well, that's a campfire story for later.
Exactly.
One of these campfire stories is going to be a true story of Jess being harassed by whatever the fuck that is.
Deadass.
But guys, Thanks for listening to a brand new episode. Don't forget, starting next week, the month of October, Spooktober, we are going to have weekly episodes. Should we reveal what the theme is?
Do we want them to guess? Do we want them to guess?
I think we could reveal it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so next week, the theme for the entire month will be haunted locations. So we will be dealing and diving in with original stories based on actual locations, and then the lore and the history of the things around it.
I am so excited. Both of mine are fun, but I'm very excited for one in particular because it's a close to home location. But it's not my house.
Not your house yet.
Yeah, not my house ever. Don't wish that on me.
No, sorry. But yeah, no, I'm really excited that we have 4 brand new stories to be able to tell you, and then the locations that correspond with them, and the legends and the lore behind those. So hopefully you guys tune in on it. Thank you, everybody. And yeah. And remember, last one out douses the fire. If you heard something, no you didn't. If you're here with us next time, it means you made it through the morning.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.